All right. Okay, that's me, Chris Bird. I have 25 years experience as a visual production designer. In 1991, at the beginning of the rave days in the United Kingdom, I put a video projector in a nightclub. I guess you could call that augmented reality. I've been making augmented reality spaces ever since, but not in the way you guys probably think of it. I work in the real space of actual things. However, we do use technology for the way we work. Firstly, I want to explain where and how we work. That's our building, and in many ways, there's a bit of a similarity between the way we work and the Bauhaus movement from here in Germany, that being design, art, and technology all under one roof. And that's what we do. We currently have an art and design practice where we create installation artworks. I'll show you a little bit, but not too much. A brand and band production event company, and we create our own software tool called D3. D3, we'll talk about a bit later. However, it's a real-time gaming engine for creating live events. This is our team. We have many different people: architects, industrial designers, electronics engineers, production engineers, and creatives. We work across the world, and we have 50% women, 50% Europeans, 25% British, and the other 25% from all over the world. We make our own tools. That's essentially what we do, and we experiment. We work in the digital and the real world. We use computer software to create algorithms. Those algorithms create shapes and forms, and from those shapes and forms, we create real sculptural installations and events. There's a picture of our software up there, D3. It's actually now used by many production companies around the world. It's running the Beyoncé World Tour, it's running the U2 World Tour, it's running the Super Bowl halftime shows, it's running the Cirque du Soleil circus events. All of these are real-world experiences, and ultimately you'll see where I'm going with this short talk of only 15 minutes, that indeed you have to make your own tools, because if the tools don't exist, you must experiment. You've got to make your own tools, and sometimes, if you're lucky, those tools might become the next thing. Partly D3 is getting there. However, the tools are just a means to an end. We experiment, however, not only in software, but we also experiment in materials, because how things feel, how things touch, how you interact with them are really, really important. And we'll get back to that a little bit later. Our studio enables us to experiment in the physical and the real. We build prototypes. We use 3D printing. CNC milling machines. We have relationships with universities in the UK who allow us to use their robots so that we can mill things and look at the shape and the form, because even though you can create in the virtual world, there's nothing like actually making it for real. Our work spans artworks, which are mostly like paintings. They hang on the wall. They're kind of like two-dimensional objects. You react to them in the same way you might react to a painting in an art gallery. You cannot walk around them. They exist in a two-dimensional space, although they are three-dimensional objects. We make large-scale three-dimensional sculptures that you are forced to walk around, to observe from multiple different locations. This difference between the 2D world and the 3D world, we often hold in a balance between each other. But it's an exciting place because, as you'll see, performances of bands, going to a gallery to see an artwork, in many ways, these are the visceral moments in time that we try to explore in our work. Some of our work, you actually have to go inside. You see it from within and look outside. So these three elements, the 2D world, the 3D world, you being the viewer, you being the participant, the sorts of things that really resonate with us in our work. Some of our work is in art galleries, some of it is on the stage, some of it, though, is corporate events. Brands and bands are often words that we use in our studio internally. And it's interesting because the brand, the band, sorry, is in fact a brand. So how do you take the brand and lift it somewhere else, create an experience that resonates with the audience? And in these days, technology shapes us and forms us. So we have a mission, which is to use technology in a way that creates new spaces. And these new spaces create a relationship with the viewer and force us to question our place in space and time. Here's some band work, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Massive Attack, using technology to deliver a message or to create a spectacle to enhance that environment. We also work in fashion shows using lasers and other technologies like mirrors and servo motors to create something that's never before been seen. Fashion shows are like band experiences. There's a stage, and you are the audience, just like you are the audience and I'm on the stage. There's a line here that's invisible that I must not cross, and you must not cross either. However, that's what's exciting about being at a gig when you go to see a band or to a theater, because the performers are on the stage. You're there to look. You're looking as an individual, but you're sharing the experience together. And this is what we're going to be talking about over the next 12 and a half minutes. Which is going to be almost impossible to talk about it. Some of our work is not only made to be seen and experienced directly, but sometimes we create works for the film studio, for the photographic studio, so that that work can then exist beyond the physical and enter into the digital world. So we're using digital technology to design, conceive, and create new experiences. But we're also capturing this and allowing it to be played back, usually through your traditional media of cinema, TV, film, and the web. And of course, everyone's buzzwords are augmented reality, virtual reality, and we're going to talk about that and how you may create other spaces inside a virtual world without losing the essence of the real. And that's why I called it Another Space. Okay. So, think of this picture, some hands on a wall, 25,000 years old, multiple people over multiple generations spurting paint across their hand. And why? To leave a mark? Is it a community gesture? Did it all happen at the same time? We don't know. But what we do know is they're talking to us somehow. This is a painting. Is it art? I don't know. We're not here to talk about what is art. We are here to talk about what this means, what it says. They're leaving a trace. They're making a story. And that story is for us to read. So, how else can they make stories? Using pictures. They're telling us something here. It's not animated. It's using the simplest of technology. But it was at the pinnacle of the technology at the time, the ability to create, use these colors. And these colors still exist in their same brilliance, mostly because these were created in darkness, in a cave, underground, hidden from human eye. And why was it made? Probably for some kind of celebration or some kind of ceremony. We do not know. These two-dimensional images also, there are three-dimensional images. This is the oldest sculpture known to man, discovered in Germany, southern Germany. It's 40,000 years old. But now I tell you that, it resonates with you. You think, wow, 40,000 years. How many hands did this sculpture go through? What's the story? What was it for? Well, it's some kind of fertility symbol, probably. And now I've told you that. You're probably thinking, oh, maybe it was. How many hands did it pass through? What was it made for, who for, and by whom? However, this gives you some context as to what this object was. This work of art was not created for art's purpose. It had a purpose. These images were not created just to make art for others to enjoy, but they had some purpose. And this is where I want to go with this talk, is about the context, the purpose of what you make as creatives in order to create an environment which stimulates people. And fundamentally, for me, art is about raising questions, right? What's the question? How does it make you feel? What are you going to take home? What are you going to talk about after you go to the cinema and see a great movie? You're going to talk about how it made you feel. When you go to an art gallery, how does it make you feel? And I think that some of these things are fundamentally because we, as human beings, we like to be together. We like to hang out. We go to the bar. We go to the pictures. We have dinner together. We hang out at festivals. We look into the flame like moths hanging around the lantern. And this, I think, is part of us as human beings. And it's important that we recognize this when we create new experiences, when we take spaces and we change them. We leave something behind, even for a minute. And today, with digital technology, everyone's got their phone. You can take a picture, you leave a trace. Everybody is involved. However, fundamentally, it's about being together, doing something. So, Shakespeare wrote a play, and here's a picture of a stage. So we're going to talk about stages. What's a stage? Because he said, all the world's a stage. Okay? He says, all the world's a stage, but, next line, I nearly forgot that, all the men and women are merely players. This, for me, is kind of prophetic. It's saying something. How did he know? You all are part of the performance, right? Just because I'm up here does not mean I'm the guy on the stage. Maybe I spin it around. You're on the stage. What does this mean, this stage? This stage has been around for many years. I don't know if you know about upstaging somebody or downstaging somebody. This stage here is flat. But back then, in Shakespeare's day, the stage was raked like this at an angle. And there was a good reason for that. And that was because if you were the top actor, you'd be upstage at the top. So you could look down across the heads of the other actors into the audience and project your voice. But it was also an optical illusion. It created this sense of space that did not otherwise exist. It framed them. But these stages are important to have context. This is one of the oldest amphitheaters in ancient Greece, where there was a long history of this kind of work, this kind of theater. And look at the backdrop. Look at that, the context of this. This is not only a historical relic, but it speaks to us and says, look at why did they build it there? They built it there because of the backdrop, because of how big it made things feel, because there was context. And this tells me a story, just as Shakespeare is telling me a story when he says all the world's a stage. And this is something that we truly believe in. Coming back from the stage, the live performance, think about still life paintings. This is called a picture called An Experiment on a Bird in the Air Pump. If you can't quite see, there's a bird inside that glass vase. And this scientist is drawing the air from the glass vase, and the bird is going to fall unconscious before your very eyes. It's like magic. And the painter captured this moment. It's almost like a staged performance, but captured in time. That's what painters do. These kind of painters, at least. What this does, for me, it resonates. Down the years, there's science, there's magic, there's drama, okay? For me, this is a stage. That's a stage. This is a stage. All the world is a stage. I truly believe it. But this image also resonates for us in our practice as well because of the way the light is rendered. And perhaps without light, there is nothing. You couldn't see, you couldn't do. And that's what he's captured here very successfully. Moving forward from Shakespeare, think about the technology and how it advanced. The technology to create those handprints, the technology to carve a piece of ivory, the technology to project your voice in a theater, the technology to project light. In the late 19th century, advances in technology meant they could burn oil at a higher temperature, create more bright images, and they would start to do things on a stage that had never been done before, creating magic. And for some years, people experimented with this technology like it was new. And we'll come back to the VR and the AR thing in a minute. Perhaps we're at that point where new technology has been invented. There is not a language yet through which we can use to speak. However, there must be context. Otherwise, in many ways, it's irrelevant. This technology evolved. People used it in the most strange ways. This picture is what was called a phantasmagoria. Phantasmagoria. They would buy these lanterns if you were rich enough, and in the back room they would draw the curtains and project images of fantastic images and creatures, and the children would go, "Wah!" and go to bed and have nightmares, probably, and they'd tell all their friends about it. That was the social media of the day, no doubt. People use technology as it evolves, and technology uses people. This guy invented this thing called the Clavilux. Look at that crazy machine. Perhaps this is the new, that back then this was the latest, the greatest. But the technology enabled people to do things that they'd never done before. This is a light sculpture created by the founder of the Bauhaus movement. It's quite a famous thing. It's been recreated many times. Simple shapes through which you project light, which create shadow and form. Things that have not been seen before. But move forward. I don't know if you recognize this installation called the Rain Room, an interactive installation which rains everywhere, apart from where you are. It creates context. You and your friends enjoy the space together. So it's a group experience, and you look at each other's faces going, "Hey, I'm not wet, I'm not wet." And it's an exciting thing. However, it works because of the way they designed it. They thought about the way people are going to work together in the space, and that made it work. This is a show I worked on, the U2 360 tour. This is a group experience. You go to see a band or a theater, you sit next to each other, you can smell each other, you can hear each other rustling. In a gig, you're pressed up against each other. This creates the energy and the impact. This is an interesting show because the band are not on the stage, in the distance, but you're surrounding them. It's kind of in the round. And also other mediums, moving forward. The technologies it's evolved enables us to create new messages and tell different stories. We work with the band Massive Attack, and this photo is from last Friday's Hyde Park gig, just after the Brexit, which I said I wasn't going to mention, but I can't help it. We had to tell a story. They had a political message, but you cannot use words lightly. They're very important. You cannot unsay what has been said. So whether you work in the real world or the digital world or somewhere in between the two, it is very important you understand the context within which you are presenting your work. Sometimes you are watching, sometimes you are in it, sometimes you are participating. And this is what is interesting about the virtual world that we are probably talking about in this conference, which is the hyper-real, the virtual reality. I suggest that if we do not keep our feet firmly on the ground, thinking about the context within which we work, that we will lose something visceral and something important. And I don't believe we found the answer yet. Here's a picture of the Mona Lisa in the Louvre Gallery. If you go to the Louvre, you will doubtless encounter this kind of media scrum where you will never have the opportunity to observe the Mona Lisa on your own. And anyway, it's hidden behind a perspex sheet. So the initial purpose of you being able to go up and inspect it has been removed. However, this two-dimensional image is presented almost in a theatrical way. And there's an entire audience looking at it. I don't know if it was supposed to be seen this way. However, you can move the picture from the Louvre and put it elsewhere. You cannot move other things as easily. This is a pickled cow. This is a sculpture. The only way to observe it is to walk around it. There's two-dimensional experiences and three-dimensional experiences. You can pick and choose where you want to be. And there are these other experiences. Some of these experiences you may have been to see, but this only works when you are inside it. And this is as close in the real world, perhaps, as the hyper-reality of VR can get. However, I want to ask the question, is it possible to capture the essence of the real world in the virtual world? Or will we be able to find a way? In Berlin right now, a friend of mine, a sculptor, has designed a performance piece. It is a robot which performs a sculptural dance. Okay? It's by a guy called Davide Quayola. He works similarly to us. He uses technology to create new spectacle. However, his sculptural forms that he creates, he takes real-world things and destructs them, crunches them, reimagines them using computer programs to create a new reality. A virtual reality, yes. Augmented reality, yes. But definitely, it's real. This is on down the road. I highly suggest you go and see it. If you want to go and see a robot create a sculpture, it's happening there. This is a different reality. We create our own tools. This is our software D3. It's a virtual space, okay? A virtual space where you can create shows and create augmented reality installations. A car, a band, Ed Sheeran, a theater production, or a cellist. You can augment their reality. So we create the tools. We design spaces. So what is the new future? I don't know. I've been told I have to hurry up. But I don't know if you've seen this video. It's awesome, called Hyper Reality. You know, is this the new future? I don't know. You know, how many people will be plugged in to the Matrix? I hope not that many. But the future is bright for those who develop their tools and who create a new space to work in and who stick to their core principles. And I think that's it. Oh yeah, there's a guy in an opium den. Is that the new future? I don't know.
Fantastic. Thank you, Chris Bird. Thank you very much.
All right.